And with that, we are done with season one of Game of Thrones House of the Dragon. In one way, it feels like it went by really, really quick, but in some others, it felt like those two episodes were 2 years. And now begins the long wait, which I really, really, really hope that they have a plan to put this back on the screen before 2 years. I personally would think that would be inexcusable for them not to be able to get this show back on in relative. You had to know, just like with Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Why are we waiting? People who love that, why are you waiting 2 years for that? You guys knew damn well that this show was going to be popular, and you needed to be ready to. If you really should have shot both episodes or both seasons at once to save money. As far as I know and understand, there are no major time jumps from this point on. So you have the actors there, you have them on location, you have the same basic locations that are already available to you. Why not shoot another season right there and then? That's just me. I think you would have saved like at least 50, 60 million, just having to move all that stuff around. It's Game of Thrones is a really, really expensive show to shoot, and each season it gets more expensive. And they spend it with no problem because they know how many people are watching it, to the point where they don't even give a rat's ass about piracy. Game of Thrones doesn't care about piracy to the point where they brag about it in their meetings, in their stock meetings. So I hope that the latest we get another season of House of the Dragon is the same month that this started, which would be August. What they really should have done is had it ready for April. The traditional time for most of the original Game of Thrones series was always mid-April, and then it will wrap up in mid-June. But like I said, it all depends on availability and all that. But knowing what they have at their fingertips, I really hope they put don't sacrifice quality, but don't make me wait 2 years for season 2. So we go ahead and bring in Thay and see what he thought of the episode. What's going on, man?
Vagar's a monster.
Vagar's not a monster. Vagar was being ridden by someone who never had full control over him. And that was the whole point. Now, in order for you guys to truly understand what happened there, understand there was a reason why Aemon couldn't mount the dragon to begin with. He didn't have the mindset to, and none of the dragons would buy into him. He picked a much older dragon that had been through wars and had been ridden by people of different temperament. And he mounted that dragon, and probably the worst thing for him to have was to mount that dragon. I don't think he ever had control. He never fought a battle with that dragon, so he did not know how to control that that dragon in that kind of circumstances. That dragon had the restraint, adopted the restraint that Aemon had, and you could clearly see that was not his intent. As much of an asshole that Aemon Targaryen is, that was not his intent. He came there to be a bully. He came there to, or he was there to scare people. And even when he mounted the dragon, he's basically being a bully, And I don't get the sense. I mean, you saw that shit look at it at the end of at the minute. He realized what he had done, and we all know the ramifications of it now, because there ain't going to be no peace.
That's the thing.
That was open to peace, open to not burning this realm to the ground. That shit's over now.
Well, you see, that's the thing. There's only one. I mean, I understand how it happened in the book, but they didn't really very well explain it in the show. Arx did attack first, the little dragon.
Yeah, I think if something 3 times, 5 times my size came after me, I would try to hurt him. I don't blame it on Luke. Dude, that was all 100% Aemon. He was the only one that could have completely controlled that situation by not mounting his dragon.
Yeah, he didn't have to chase Luke. That could have been. But remember what happened in the book that caused him to go after Luke. They didn't show that in the show. I don't remember.
It's been like 8 years.
Go ahead. Spoiler? Okay. All right, everybody. This is a spoiler from the book. After Luke left and went to his dragon, the Baratheon daughter that was being promised to Aemond basically taunted Aemond, said, "Did he just take your eye or did he take your balls as well?" And that pissed Aemond off, and Aemond went after him on Vhagar.
Okay, that's even dumber. That good that they didn't put that in the show, because that would have made Aemon even dumber than he ends up being for what he did. That would have made it worse, actually. Listen, you're of the royal house. You're in the phase of a war where you're strategically trying to stop conflict by getting as many alliances together so that the other side is like, you know what, we can't take on that. The last thing you really wanted to do, if you don't have the temperament to be an envoy or to be an emissary, then you can't be one. He knew the situation. No matter that, I mean, he could have slapped her. I mean, he could have, that's, you see how they treat women. He didn't want to take it out on her. I mean, or Baratheon, he could have just left. You see how Daemon put his hands around. I mean, I would have, I don't condone that, but dude, now you've started a war where thousands of people are going to die. And realistically, and I like the way they did this as an episode, they actually let you know that there was a realistic chance that it didn't have to go to that extent. And then they show you her face at the end. Her face at the end was like, I'm going to kill all you motherfuckers.
Yeah. Now that's okay. So in the book, again, another spoiler. I hate to do this to people.
Oh, hold on. Let's put the spoiler thing up here.
Yeah. That's what Stella told us in the back. She said, put up the spoiler thing. But in the book, Rhaenyra and Daemon didn't find out about Luke and Arx until the dragon's skull and part of his body washed up on the sea. It kind of the way that was cut together. I'm not complaining about the show at all, but the way that was cut together for Daemon just to know that they were dead and go tell Rhaenyra kind of seems disjointed.
Well, remember, all the stuff in the book is hearsay, so it probably didn't. What you're seeing in it now is actually what happened. The book, even George R. R. Martin, that's all hearsay. That's all second and third. Because remember in the book, what he does to Lucerys' body is he takes his eyes out. And that's not likely. That's not likely because prior to that, Aemon was an asshole, but he wasn't a murderer. There's a difference. You can be an asshole, but he wasn't a murderer. And I'm of the opinion of what one of the showrunners said, because I watched the little behind the scenes thing afterwards, and one of the showrunners said what you saw there, that the way that Aemon was acting, because like he was like, don't do it, and the way that Aemon was acting was like the last little bit of the child that was left in him. Yeah,
like he didn't want to kill Luke.
Yeah, he's a murderer now. I mean, even if it was an accident, it don't matter now. He's dead, and the ramifications are coming no matter what. And but yeah, that was a little boy that couldn't control. As a child could not control a dragon, and then he had to prove himself. But eventually, like I said, that dragon rode with Aegon the Conqueror. That dragon would have taken a much stronger mind to much better temperament to control, and he just couldn't do it. And that's the thing. Having the biggest dragon isn't what ultimately is going to win this thing. Having mastery over the dragon, and ultimately for him, I won't spoil this. His mastery over his dragon will come back to haunt him. All right, so it was. I once again, each episode just got better. I have
to say, another thing that stands out to me is the high towers and the balls on them to change the color of the dragon on the sails.
Well, you know why they did that, right?
It's a Targaryen dragon, but green.
No, it's gold. It's gold with green border, and it's gold because Aegon's dragon Sunfire is gold. We haven't seen him yet, but when you see him next season, he's gold, and that he did that, and that's where you start seeing his ego. As he starts coming into his own, he starts separating from the restraints that even Otto Hightower has for him, and definitely Alicent has for him. He becomes his own asshole, and he's one of those people that you just like, you know what, dude, when and if you die, it's just going to be fucking great. He's like that.
Yeah.
He's not at Ramsay Bolton intelligence, but he's gotten under my skin. Just when it was, like I said, just the rape alone was like, ugh. And then you know what he does in the book. But like I said, they keep reminding you over and over again that just because these tales have been told in the book, that's not necessarily how it's going to happen.
Right.
So it's exciting because it gives you a dimension that you didn't really You don't have to say, well, I know it's going to happen. I'm just bracing for it. Nah, you things happen. And even if you know what happens, the way they lay it out, her facial expressions, her becoming, you just start hear her started becoming more like a field general, and a mother at the same time, which is things that you didn't get to see, and how she engages with her son, her sons, and it was just, I enjoyed that. Daemon Targaryen, just in case you forgot, reminded you, yeah, he may not be as much of an asshole as the Hightower. He's still an asshole. He's still an asshole. Don't forget, Daemon. Don't. It seems like a long season, but don't forget, this is the guy who knocked off his wife and married another woman after his next wife. I mean, it seemed like hours after his next wife was dead. And he just snapped into war footing. He just became, when she said, what do we stand? He just wrapped it off like all quick, like he's been waiting for war all of his life. And when you think about it, he's the only one of them that has actually fought a war. The Stepstones, everybody else stayed out of that war, but him and Corlys fought that war. He's always been ready to fight. And that's the difference between the Hightowers, is they haven't. They come from a relative time of peace. Jaehaerys was peaceful. Everything was peaceful, and then you got Daemon out there looking for violence. Corlys looking for violence. So, yeah, it was good to see him again. They just kind of threw Corlys back in there. He just wakes up out of nowhere. Oh, I'm back home again. And then, tells his wife what an idiot he's been. And then, says, hey, we're going to leave. We're going to go, and we're not going to claim for anybody. And she's like, no time to be a pussy now. Our grandchildren are in danger no matter what. And
she reminded him what this fight was really about.
Yeah, I love her. Eve's best is she's just
she is so good, and I started respecting her. I mean, I already respected her character, but I started respecting her even more after this episode. Like, she's amazing.
Yeah, just hearing her voice, it never goes really, really high, but she always maintains that intensity. When she's like, that little girl, that girl's the only thing holding the realm together. Everybody's surrounding the painted table wants her to plunge the realm into war. And, you just get the sense. And then now, and I love the way when Daemon asked the question that everybody's been asking, why didn't you kill him? You could have burned them all then and there. And she's like, yeah, there's a war coming, but I'm not going to be the one to start it. And you know what?
Yeah,
she's 100% right. So
it's not my war to start, is what she said. Yeah. And she's right. It wasn't her war to start, but now it's out the window now. There's no going, and they start calling Aemon the Kinslayer later on.
Yeah. He hates that name. He eventually tries to embrace it to make like he's a badass, but he's a tortured soul. Like I said, even this dysfunctional, fucked up family, they hadn't killed each other. They hadn't done anything to each other to this point. They would have done it by proxy to like other people, but they hadn't done it. They were still family. That was still his nephew. He would have probably beat him up, but and I think if anybody outside the bloodline would have tried to fuck with anybody, I think they would have rose up. But he was not. I mean, and it just got out of control. It's what happens like in a bar fight. You didn't mean to kill a guy. If you get into a motorcycle club fight and you beat up one of their bikers, guess what? Doesn't matter how it happened. You got the Hells Angels and the Mongols that are going to re-roll it against each other. So it just happened. But let me go with Stella here. Team Black, please remember to like the stream, subscribe to the channels along with the Sci-Fi Centers YouTube. Yeah, she gave you the link right there. Yeah, a couple more subscribers, and I won't have to have that giant ass link. I think I have like 10 more subscribers. Hi, Michelle. How you doing?
Hey, Michelle.
Let's real quick. Daryl, the final episode of season, Allison's son is a psych. Okay. I don't. He's not well hinged. I'll give you that. He does not have control of his emotions, but a psychopath would have calculously just killed him. The dragon did. Vagar is a weapon of war. 107, almost a 200-year-old dragon that's been known nothing for the most of her life was war. She came to King's Landing, war of conquest, all the wars that they fought, wars in Dorne. And remember, she knows about one of the third dragon that was killed in Dorne. I mean that dragon, you had only the right person could have mounted that dragon, and he was too conflicted to mount that dragon. And that dragon was like, fuck it, that little guy just blew fire at me. my immediate response to that is to eliminate the threat, because that's all I know. Not because I hate the dragon. That's all I know. All you have trained me to do is war. Those other dragons, or for the most part, are all. And even they mentioned it. They mentioned it while they're saying that those dragons aren't battle worthy. Most of the dragons that are around now are not battle worthy because Harris kept them out of wars. So now you have the last remaining dragon that has known nothing but violence and retaliation in response all of her life, got blown with fire, and it was because the little dragon was trying to escape. The little dragon wasn't in the wrong. Aemon was 100% in the wrong for rolling up on him like that. And the war has been started by the Hightowers from beginning to end. Otto Hightower's bullshit, pimping his daughter out and manipulating. He started this. Alicent going along with it. And now Aemon for actually pushing things to the point of no return. And you saw when he looked down and saw the pieces of that dragon like that, he knew. He knew when that dragon was dead and that Lucerys was dead on top of it, any hope of peace was done. And trust me, when he goes back to King's Landing and has to let them know that what's happened, they're not going to be happy. They're not happy with that because they know what comes next. They knew that they were overmatched because they were trying to get all the houses. They know, that if they had the Navy and the majority of the dragons in the sky, they're up against it. The only advantage that they had, and I said this last month, was the fact that they knew Viserys was dead long before they did, and they could start maneuvering around sooner than later. But once Rhaenys got out of there with that dragon, which is what they did not want, she flew right back to them and told them what was going on, and then it began. But even still, there was a chance. The fact that Rhaenys didn't say, hey, you know what, Damon, just go ahead and cut his balls off and his head. The fact that she said, no, you'll have your answer in the morning. There was still a shot at peace, slim as it was. But once Vhagar did that and Aemon is responsible for it, it's over now. I mean, and it's the Dance with Dragons, as if it didn't begin last week, it damn sure began this week. Like I said, I'm ready. What am I going to do next Sunday? It's like when the Super Bowl ends and there's no football.
Like I said, we need to, you and I need to discuss after one of these shows about what we could do with Sunday nights, because we still have people that show up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we got to find something to talk about, though. What the hell are we going to? You guys throw us some ideas.
You know what? Do you know how to put up a poll in the?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I know there's a way to do it. I know there's a way to do it through YouTube on my YouTube channel, but I haven't done it here yet. But I'll get with Enosh about that.
Yeah,
we'll have time. We'll I have until we reconvene on Friday at 6:30 to come up with something. It might end up being a little later too, because my schedule will change because now that there's no Thrones. But hey, we've gone late before it, and nobody seems to mind. So yeah, this was an episode, not the most violent episode. Obviously, that scene is violent, but for the majority, it's just you just feel the tension. You feel you're sliding down that path of
the kid almost got away. Like he had gone low, put himself between the rocks.
I knew he was. Even if I hadn't known that what ends up happening, all right. So he was dead once Vhagar came after him. He wasn't going to escape.
We knew that.
Yeah. And they gave you that sense of suddenness, and I'm like, okay, nice for you to fuck with people's emotions like that.
Like, look, I knew that. Even if I hadn't read the book, I knew that kid was dead the moment he landed and saw Vhagar parked there.
Well, see that one. Okay, I could have seen thinking around that, but once he took to the sky and you saw him, it's like me. It's like a toddler trying to outrun me at 6'2". I don't care how fast you run. I'm going to catch up to you. There's no way he was going to outmaneuver. Even eventually, Vhagar's wingspan and every swoop she took was going to put her so far close to him that it wasn't going to matter. Even when and Vhagar can fly higher, and the other Vermax could fly more agile.
Eric's,
but it doesn't matter.
Not Vermax.
I'm sorry. Can fly. It was more agile, but like I said, it's like a guppy in the ocean and a great white's coming after you. It doesn't matter. The shark's going to get you. He didn't have, like I said, it was a valiant effort on his part, but that dragon was just not big. Now, if it had been like the Vermiter, like the dragon that you see Daemon playing around in the cage, now if that would have been the case, now that dragon is huge, not as big as Vagar, but it would have been a different fight. Even Daemon's own dragon, even Caraxes would have been able to perform, because not only is Caraxes agile, but he's fought in wars and he's big. And we haven't seen him again lately, but he's actually bigger than we saw him the last time we saw him.
Actually,
So
Caraxes, we did see him in the show.
What was after what's the last time we saw him?
We saw him this episode when when God damn it, when Daemon was questioning those two Kingsguard guys.
Did I? Oh, you know what? I may have missed. Because I was running my mouth. We were doing the stream. So okay, I have to watch it again. But you see his size, though. He should be bigger than if you saw him last time, because they keep growing.
Oh, he was bigger. He was bigger. He shows, like I said, there were the two Kingsguard guys. He took them outside and he took Luke with him, and he said, "I'm going to teach you about
that's right.
loyalty."
When he had them, he used
on
the
dragon.
beach. Yeah, okay.
That was Caraxes.
But yeah, so if it would have been Caraxes against Vagar, hint, different story. But
well, hell, even Melees versus
Melees would have fucked him up, or at least had instead of. I don't think he would have attacked. I don't think she would have attacked. I think there would have been enough of a deterrence there. But like a wild animal, like a pit bull fighting a chihuahua, he's going to take advantage of that situation. So then that should see. But the whole intensity of the score, once again, I don't say enough about House of the Dragon, but that score was beautiful.
I love the dragon score.
Yeah.
I love the dragon score. Stella was saying that when we were watching it just a little bit ago. She was like, she loved the dragon score that you always hear with the dragons.
Yeah, all the way going back to the original series. Yeah, we're gonna have to make a song out of that. House of Dragon. Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I said, you never seen that look on his face the entire time that they've had this actor play him, Ewan Mitchell. You always saw a look of stoic calm. Even when he was chasing down his brother, he was like, "You pain in the ass," but he was always calm. That look in his face was different this time around. That look in his face was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna be the one that starts this off." And plus, I just killed my nephew. Like I said, up to that point, one of them hadn't killed the other. Obviously Daemon suspects Alicent of killing Viserys, but that's just him being paranoid. But if you notice, they hadn't all 100 some odd years since the reign of the Targaryens, they hadn't done anything to each other like that. That's
Targaryen hasn't killed Targaryen.
Yeah, and dragons have killed each other, but it's not been like under that scene. Even he brought that up. But Targaryen, he they were still, remember, and they harken back to when they were kids, they were playing with each other. And they became what they are because their parents poisoned them and aimed them at each other. Remember the whole pig thing? They were bros. They were hanging out. It didn't become this way until their parents aimed them that way. And that was still his, regardless of, hey, he took his eye and all that shit. I do not think Aemon, if it hadn't been for him losing control of the dragon, I do not think Aemon would have killed him.
No, he was just trying to scare him.
Yeah, but now it doesn't matter now. How you doing?
Now it's again what it's been this whole show. Fuck around and find out. Like this show has literally been that meme. Like you had the kid when Rhaenyra was looking at suitors, the little guy that killed the bigger dude that was picking on him.
Yeah.
You had somebody else kill somebody like real quick. Then you had Daemon take Vaemon's head.
Now Araxos was Luke's dragon. Okay, all right. Yeah, yes, he fired first.
But like you said, like he was scared.
He was being chased. He basically was firing to get away. He wasn't firing to kill. He was firing to create space. And then so was Luke. That's like me coming after a much smaller person, and I corner that person, and person cannot get away from me. He pulls out a knife and stabs me, even though I don't have a knife or a gun. He fears for his life. Of course, he's gonna try to get. He's gonna do whatever he needs to do to live. But
it's like two dogs fighting. You have a little dog and a big dog, and a lot of the time, the little dog will stand his ground. Even though it can be fatal for the little dog still has that wolf energy inside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the first time he can get away, though, the first opening he gets away, he's going to go. And
that's like my dog.
That's what Eric's trying to do.
Well, it's like my dog, for instance. I have a neighbor out here. You guys know my dog. He's a little guy, little bitty Chihuahua dude. But I have a neighbor out here who has a German Shepherd. And they stay, we were taking him out one day and he met the German Shepherd out front. And the German Shepherd just kind of looked at my dog, and my little guy was like, "Holy crap, never seen you before." He kind of bristled up, And the German Shepherd did the funniest thing I've ever seen. He walked up to my dog, put his paw on my dog's head.
Yeah, because he's no threat, So yeah, this was an intense episode, and like I said, it was and this whole story has been just things spiraling out of control, and even the people who start them realize just how out of control it is.
I definitely though I will say this. Lord Giannetti of House Giannetti, me, I declare for Team Black. Screw those Hightower pricks.
Okay, they're wild animals, guys. He was being pursued by a massive dragon that could outfly and outmaneuver him eventually, and he feared for his life, and his rider feared for his life. He was doing what he needed to do. That's like like I said, the people in the Friday the 13th movies that are being chased by Jason, be calm. They're not going to calm. They're going to run over their feet. It's like...
Also, remember, guys, the dragons and the dragon riders have somewhat of a telepathic bond. If the rider's nervous, the dragon's nervous.
Yeah, and he was not there on a mission of war, and Aemon broke the rules. That is not ever supposed to happen. Aemon was wrong for breaking the rules. When you are there on a mission like that, you are not supposed to. You are not supposed. And even Baratheon said that you're not going to do that shit under my roof, and that was what got Walder Frey. Him losing a lot of his allies, because when he had the Red Wedding, he had offered safe passage. And once you offer safe passage, no matter who it is, you are not supposed to do that shit. He broke the royal rules just by
Speaking of dragons, here's mine.
He's like, "What are you doing to me?" Those eyes on the Chihuahuas are so hilarious. But yeah, Aemon broke that cardinal sin right there and then. So that's what they're gonna, everything he did was wrong. He had gotten there. He's gotten the Baratheon to align with him. That should have been it. Get on your dragon and go home. But he could not let go of that, and that's like I said, this whole thing just spiraled out of control. I hope the next time in 2023 or 24, House of the Dragon and the Rings of Power are spaced away from each other. Yeah, even though like I said, I watched the first couple episodes of how Lord of the Rings, and I just it didn't grab me, but like it wasn't a horrible show. I just didn't have time in my skull for it. I need House of the Dragon back in 2023. I can't be waiting until 2024.
Well, like I said, I read a report that they're filming it here soon. Like near the end of this year, early next year. So hopefully, because they've sped up production since, the reason why there was so much time between the Game of Thrones seasons was because production was slow. Production has changed a whole lot with shows, especially since COVID and everything else. So, 6 months to film, a month or two to do post-production. We should be able to maybe have it by fall,
And unlike with Game of Thrones, they wanted to film in the winter and they waited to film in Northern Ireland. I'm like, God damn it. Stella, I'm looking forward to the Green's death. They're totally out. Yeah. And they're headed, like I said, the word extinction is the word to keep in mind. Can the Greens win you back, Stella? How are you still neutral, Parnas? How? Otto Hightower alone It's tipping the scales. I mean, there is no asshole. The worst they have is Damon, and he's kind of cool. But where's the neutrality, dude? Listen. Okay, let's keep scoring. I mean, one asshole on you got Damon on the blacks. Okay, all right. There's your one asshole. Otto Hightower, asshole. Aemon Targaryen, asshole. Aegon's an asshole. Kristen Cole is like, that's it. It's over. How are you neutral there? But hey, maybe you see things in the Hightower, the green branch that I don't see. But they're nothing but an asshole pest dispenser. You tilt their head back, another asshole is coming. Hey, Alicent now, dude, 5-1 in asshole level. How are you getting neutral protest? But hey, he's his own. But at least for now, they'll all evolve into people that you just all need to die. But as of now, as of episode 10, year 1, dude, the asshole scale is like, it's like no, it's not even close. But hey, all right, can the Greens win you back? Whoa.
Also, remember the Greens also have Laris Strong, who's got to be the weirdest motherfucker I've ever seen.
I ran out of fingers on one hand. That's then his whole foot fetish. Doesn't Aegon eventually? Yeah, and I don't want to tell everybody how that happens, but it's one of those boss moments for a particular character. How that happens,
I think it sucks because I know who the next major casualty is, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and that's going to be the reminder of the fact that there are assholes on both sides. So Protest X, both sides are jerks, but the Greens are the usurpers. Alicent misunderstood. Yeah, even before that, she misunderstood what he said, he was going to do it anyway. Remember what Lannister said, long laid plans. Before he even died, they were scheming and planning. So even without that knowledge, with drunk Viserys, muttering that stuff to her, Otto Hightower and all the lords that were there had already started to plan. So like I said, just
what I want to see though? I want to see the Lannister fleet versus the Sea Snakes fleet. That would be freaking amazing.
Will probably, if they do it right, will probably be one of the coolest moments of the series. If they do that right, the Aemon versus Daemon will probably be the one of the coolest, if not the coolest moment of this particular story.
Don't you think a sea battle versus the two fleets would be cool?
That too.
Because the Lannisters have a huge fleet, and of course Corlys is with the Blacks.
Okay, Protest, you're messing with me. I'm giving Aegon what to do? What mass murder? Okay,
what's possessing you, Protoss?
One of them's a rapist, multiple rapists, hanging down in the ghetto, raping people and having kids. Okay, and there's a worthless drunk. The other one is now, at the very least, guilty of manslaughter. What are they going to do with these second chances? Nothing good. No, they need no more chances.
Do you consider that manslaughter by dragon?
Dragon slaughter or whatever it is.
Is that like accidentally killing somebody with vehicular manslaughter?
Hey, you know what? That's cool. I guess. Yeah, because it's a living thing. We watch parties for Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, compare books. You know what? Dave the Film Junkie does that with the Batman animated series. We watch episodes and discuss it. So that is a great idea. I think that's
that's something that Stella. That's something that Stella and I have been talking about. And we could do that if you want to do that. Like we could go back through the original series and do a rewatch and do like comparison book to show.
Yeah. Season 2 predictions. I kind of know. Because like I said, remember when I say I spoiled myself, I knew all this stuff before I even knew there was going to be a Game of Thrones or a House of the Dragon. I had this source material is really, really old. Not really old, but 25, 26 years old. So I read the original these things. Yeah.
I read the original books. I have to admit, I read the original books in prison, all 5 of them.
There you go.
So, like,
fun fact.
Well, everybody
Um,
everybody that's heard me talk knows I was in prison for a bit. But anyway, so like I read those 5 books in prison like multiple times. So
yeah,
all of that's fresh in my head, you know.
I read them in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, I think. But yeah, so I knew before there was even mention of Game of Thrones, the show. I didn't know I was spoiling myself because I didn't know anything was coming. So, and I already knew about this storyline, so I kind of know it happens in season 2. It's how they present it. Now, the caveat is they have shown the willingness to stray from the books and do their own thing. So,
Well, but
I don't know.
that lends it to what you said though. At least with this series, that lends it to what you said about how it's hearsay. Like the book
Yeah.
Blood and Fire is hearsay.
Yeah, so we don't know. They could surprise us here. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that happens here, like okay, what's her face? If I recall, and I think Stella reminded me of this, Princess Rhaenys wasn't even on in the Dragon Pit in the books. I don't recall that. That's how she did it. But guess what?
No,
That's
she
how she
wasn't
did.
even at King's Landing. She
Yeah.
wasn't at
So
King's Landing.
yeah, that they do what they want. The story, is what they tell it. So I don't know. I it's gonna be. I think you're probably going to see a lot more sex and violence because you're going to start seeing people sleeping around with each other to maneuver themselves. You're going to see a lot of the sleazy stuff that's in the flea bottom area because you have Miss Sarah. She's very important next season. I think that you're going to see a lot more dragons die. Do not get connected to these dragons. They're not cute little fuzzy things. They kill and they die. I think you're going to see the lines blurred between right now. You have the bad guys and the good guys. You can really, and even with one of the good guys have an anti-hero in Damon, but the lines are going to be blurred because, like I said, we brought up
Yeah,
something
this
we didn't bring up.
story is going to get so much more ambiguous.
Yeah. Oh,
There's a thing coming probably at the first part of this next season that's going to make all of you hate a certain somebody.
yeah. Yeah,
And
especially now that you see the context of what Eamon did, not being necessarily on purpose. There's going to be some vengeance for that, and
well,
you're going
okay,
to start
so
seeing people get harmed that don't necessarily have anything to do with the direct
I
violence.
will say this. What's coming is kind of egged on by the new king, by Aegon.
Yeah.
The
Well,
act that I'm talking about is egged on by what Aegon does.
yeah, because he encourages instead of saying you fucking idiot, you started a war. He encourages his behavior, and it gets
Well,
worse.
he throws Aemon to party for killing his nephew.
Yeah, he shows him a tournament. Now that's not necessarily going to happen in the books, but you get the sense that Aegon is by the time we see him again will have been absorbed, where he was nervous to take that mantle. By the time we see him again, it will most more than likely be he will be full on. It's just my throne, and at that point, like I said before, once he has the crown on his head, and he's in that throne. He's no longer going to take advice from the people who propped him up there. He's going to become very, 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 very dangerous and stupid. And they painted him in the series as he is in the books as being a fucking dummy. All right, not the brightest bulb on the thing, and when he's not drunk and they made sure that that this guy is a drunk and he's a compulsive guy who with no sense of duty. Say what you want about the blacks, though. The sense of duty is what holds them together, and you don't see that with Aegon. And once he's king, he doesn't have to listen to certain people. You know, and a lot of people pay for that. A lot of people pay for his inability to think strategically, and he outthinks the people around him, which makes him even more dangerous. It's kind of like when Hitler in World War II. Hitler surrounded himself for the most part with people who had fought in wars, fought in World War One, and knew strategic, went to war colleges and everything else. He would try to outthink his generals and countermand his generals, and that's one of the things he would be countermanding Rommel, the Desert Fox, one of the great tank commanders in history. He would second guess him. You never saw that with the Americans. Eisenhower never countermanded
Patton.
um, Patton with his Third Army once he gave him the general order. He would give him a general order, and at that point, it was up to Patton to handle everything from below down. They didn't second guess Patton. They left Patton to come up with his own imagination, his own battle plans, and everything else. Whereas Hitler wanted to be the general, and he wasn't even in the front lines. That's Aegon.
And
That is Aegon.
Stella makes a good point here. She says this is loosely based on Matilda, the granddaughter of William the Conqueror, the first official king of England. Uh, she was named as heir. The nobles swore fealty to her, but then her uncle Stephen took the throne because he did not see a woman sitting the throne. And this is loosely based on Matilda and Stephen's fight, uh, to
They
some
just
extent.
Yeah, they just added dragons. I would have just blew off when I landed and saw a dragon that big. Once again, nobody thought that was going to happen. Nobody was anticipating. They were both there on as emissaries and on. They were not supposed to be attacking each other. Now
Well,
they,
hell, even Lord Baratheon said, "Not in my house."
yeah,
Like
and
he's an emissary. You
yeah,
know.
safe passage or he broke off. And so even though he saw that dragon there, he had no idea. Even Aemon had no intention to doing that. Maybe causing a ruckus, but he had no intention of actually putting his life in danger. So nobody really thought. We can think that way now in hindsight, but because he lost control of the dragon. But I mean, in hindsight, Luke had no reason to turn back. He was there on a mission. He was there on a mission, and so is Aemon. And what should have happened, which happens a lot of times in any of these things, is they get up and they go. But because you had one guy lose his mind, his dragon lost her mind with him, and it got out of control. I mean, the fact that you saw the shock on his face when it actually happened, he knew that he had gone overboard. He knew what he was there to do. He was there to make the alliance between the Baratheons, offer his hand in marriage to the daughters, and get the hell out of there and get back. None of them were supposed to be fighting because anything could have happened to Aemon. Aemon, dude, he could have gotten unlucky, or she could have gotten unlucky and crashed into the way. Anything could have happened. Or what if they hadn't sent Luke? They didn't know they were sending Lucerys. What if Daemon would have been the one there instead? Or what if Rhaenys would have been the one there instead? So now you're not talking about a much larger dragon. You're talking about dragons of equal size, skill, and battle. Now you're in trouble. So even Aemon was not supposed to be there to cause all that. It just, like I said, the entire series is people losing their shit and not being able to get that shit back. So there you go. That kid's crazy. I mean, he's not well. Poor kid, R.I.P. But yeah, that single act.
Now, I will say this, and this is going to be somewhat, I'm sure, controversial. I kind of feel bad for Aemond in this too.
Yeah, because his path of being bullied, his path of being the second son, his path of being a warrior. But I do feel sorry for him in that respect. But he's smart enough and calculating enough to have shown restraint, and he did not. He let a childhood grievance enter into a very adult game. The boy did that. What you saw tonight. Aemon the child did that tonight. Aemon the man is what needed to be there, and he needed to show. He needed to keep the child, just like Aemon and the other Aemon in Game of Thrones. And where he tells Jon Snow, kill the boy, let the man live, or something like that, and that he could not do that. He could not do that. And that mistake, everything that's been done has ramifications of thousands of people dying now. They're going to burn things down, and it has ramifications to Game of Thrones and everything else. So, all right, I'm Team Black. Yeah, here you go. I don't know where's Protus.
There's also somewhat like both sides are kind of complacent in this too, because they didn't send diplomats. They sent a boy and a recalcitrant adult. I mean, they didn't.
Well, they sent two princes, but that should have been enough. One of them didn't know how to act. That's the thing. They were both princes. They were both representatives of their houses, and they both had a legitimate point of view. And if they had followed the rules, it wouldn't have mattered who they sent. But one of them got ghetto and couldn't hold his balls and lost it. That situation probably happens and prevents wars hundreds of times. It's just that you had a tortured soul kid who has been traumatized as a child and can't let that child go. They send the right people. One of them just didn't know how to act. Ibrahim Khan, such a great season. Now that it's ended, the only downside is that we have to wait in that cliffhanger. Um, yeah, especially for those of you who have not read the source materials. For those of you who haven't read the source materials, and you guys are going to be on the edge of your seats for hopefully not too long. Hopefully, Theta's right, and we can keep this going. Fun. They should have listened to Damon when they were all dragons or torches, the greens. Then Luke would still be alive. Luke, it's hard to say because Luke would have been alive, but a whole bunch of other people would have been dead, and you're still at war. The whole loss here is not just lose Eris because you'd have probably died anyway. The whole loss here is the beginning of the Dance of Dragons. The only victory would have been to avoid it. So him doing that, Rhaenys burning them, all of that sets them off in a path that they really legitimately were trying to avoid. And when it happens, now everything that they were trying to avoid ends up happening by accident, which is the tragedy in this whole episode and this whole season. All the calculating, all the sending the ravens, all the sending the emissary, even Otto coming down with his bullshit offer. Those are all attempts to maneuver to a place where they could save face and not kill each other. It's like the Cuban Missile Crisis. But it would be like the Cuban Missile Crisis, and one of us actually accidentally, like it almost happened, where planes got shot down and somebody actually acted on that. That's the kind, when dragons are basically a nuclear power to them, you have to show restraint, and you have people on the high tower line that just don't have the restraint. So there you go.
Well, I mean, even her maester said that you have something that not everybody has. You have dragons. And when they're doing the war council on Dragonstone.
Yeah, I remember that. Now I remember them playing that at the beginning of the trailers, and then when they first started showing this series. That dude, Vince, I wish I could get over my dislike of gore to watch this and game. Listen, Vince, I didn't know this about you. I'm so disappointed in you, Vince. There is no life without gore, Vince. You literally are flying in the face of all 3Ds. Vince, I need you to embrace gore.
William, not everybody's gore crows like we are, man.
I'll help you. I'll show you the way. We'll group watch all manners of violence. And then by the time season 2 comes around, not only will you be truly immersed in the realms of death, dismemberment, and destruction, you'll embrace them. All right? You won't be able to go without them. You'll eliminate all kinds of movies from your catalog because they don't have them.
You'll embrace the death. You'll embrace it.
Release the gore side. Puppy. When they saw your dog. Bat City stuff. All these ads say that there are women wanting to date. Okay, what is
there? I think he's joking.
Oh, I thought he was a bot coming in here. I'm like, dude, did I miss this one? Okay, all these ads keep saying that the women wanted to date me in my area. That's really concerning, considering that the majority of my family lives in the same. Oh yeah, I got it. Took me a while. I got it.
There's women in your area that wish to date you, but if they're all related, I'm not a Targaryen.
You pull up the app and it's a family tree. Stella, we didn't get Footman. We didn't forget Footman. If true, that's really weird. Yeah,
Footman the Conqueror.
Otto knows the game better than anyone. Yes, but he can't control his pieces. He can't control. He set in motion things that he cannot control.
He can't even control his own piece, man. Come on.
So he knows the machinations, but he doesn't. The one unpredictable element about this whole thing is the fact that he has unleashed things that he no longer has control. And once you put them on the throne, you have less. I definitely need to watch. I'm not calling it Hot D, House of the Dragon. I think it's super entertaining. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to have to break down these episodes. And like I said, we might do it as a group eventually. Daryl Taylor, Otto started the gasoline fire, and Damon will be the one at the set of the basics. Oh yeah, very soon. Like probably first 3 episodes soon that'll probably happen. I was talking on Williamstown and wondering where everybody else was. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I simulcast this one. This is the one show that we do on both channels. Um, and you're probably okay. Sorry. I don't know how that. I know Max does. I want to try to get it to where we're all in the same group, but I don't know how to do that. But I'll figure it out. But yeah, like I said, I'm building my own channel. This is the only live stream stuff that I do on my own channel. Everything else on that channel is going to be short form stuff. But since it's Game of Thrones, it's a big deal. All right, let's see. Aegon. Yeah, I got that too. Oh, very good. So this is what you were talking about before. Matilda and William. All right, sorry. Don't be sorry. I'll help you out. Go on a dragon. You don't have any. Go on a dragon. You don't have any backup.
Yeah, both of them did. Both of them went without backup, is what she's trying to say. Aside from your dragon,
Well, once again, the established rules did not require that they were not there to fight, and Aemon was wrong. And the reason why they felt safe, or he felt safe, is because you had hundreds of years of tradition that no one had broken. That's why when Walder Frey does it in Game of Thrones, people are disgusted with him, because you have tradition says you don't do that. And no matter how much you hate or anybody else, just like if you don't like a knight, anything, you still call him sir, whatever. There are traditions that are in place that have been in place for nearly 1,000 years that you just don't break. And
that's also
God.
That's based on the laws of hospitality in the European during the Middle Ages in the European kingdoms. You didn't, if an envoy was sent, you didn't allow anything to happen to an envoy, even if you were at war.
Exactly. You did not do that. And that's why yeah, we could probably do a book club. Like I said, now that my mind will be clear, we can probably say, the restraint is on the black side. Lyra Strong will be go to Raina's side if he showed her his feet. Dude, that's all it took was the feet. Ugh. I hope they don't ever get explicit with the whole feet thing. I'll turn it off. I didn't grow up watching horror or the 3Ds. LOL. I like comedy horror stuff, but like Shaun of the Dead and Army of Darkness. Well, that's gruesome enough. So there's an opening for you and me. You're kind of in the doorway right now. You're like standing in that doorway looking through, and here I am like this.
Hey, dude, if he likes horror comedy, show him Tucker and Dale fight versus evil.
I'm like, watch some trauma stuff, dude. Anything trauma.
Toxie, yeah.
Poltergeist, all kinds of stuff in there. All right, I'm finding out the gore doesn't bother me with the horror. You know what this season lacked that most other Game of Thrones seasons that just didn't have a lot of boobs. They really they've really
cut back on the nudity.
Yeah. They really and it didn't hurt the show at all.
No.
Because it didn't fit the story. Now it fit when he was in the whorehouses and stuff like that.
All the nudity, in the original show, like that was all intrigue and bullshit. Like right now, this is it's Game of Thrones, but it's a different type of Game of Thrones. It's
more
different situations going on, more to think about.
Plus, I think the closest that they'll go with the incest on screen sex is uncle and nephew and aunt and nephew, like John and Danny, and obviously, with and her. Everybody else's brother and sister. You got to stay away from that shit. we can't watch Helena. We can't be doing Helena and Aegon. We don't want to see that. The worst they did was obviously their explicit scenes were just jacking off in the windowsill, and then him raping people, but they didn't even show that. So with Ramsay, they showed it. See, that was the difference in the story. When he raped Sansa, they didn't show it, but they showed enough of it to what was going on, and that made you hate Ramsay more. With this, you're just expected to hate Aegon because he's an idiot, but his mother doesn't even love him. When she called him an imbecile, that was hilarious. All right, so Otto is not as smart as he thinks. He is. How you think how he lost Andrew Garfield. That's hilarious. Ha ha. All right. Let's see. Second one. Sin City stuff. I would like to watch Game of Thrones, but nudity and sexual scenes can't get past it. That's why I turned off Peacemaker. Yeah. Game of Thrones is far worse than anything that as far as. But it was fitting when the original series because of the way they treated women and the way women use sexuality to get power. She even said it. The biggest weapon you have is between your legs. When she was talking to Sansa, she had no problem. She was banging all kinds of people, and then and then the gruesome and everything else, and then the whorehouses. So they showed you this story right here isn't there. They didn't show you. They didn't show you anything unless it was in a whorehouse for the most part, or brief stuff. So that shows you that Game of Thrones can tell you a story without it. Can't quite do it without violence and gore, but Peacemaker, there wasn't that much in Peacemaker. There were sexual scenes in Peacemaker. Yeah, he's banging a chick, and the one that he ends up having to blow up, but not too much. A lot of sexual jokes and stuff and everything else. I love the movie. They Talk to Avenger. Yeah, Talk to Avenger is a classic. I've met Lloyd Kaufman, and we've actually shown Toxic Avenger out here with him here. I would not have canceled my streaming. I should have canceled my streaming after House of the Dragon. Have to watch it with at my dad's house. Yeah, and you're gonna see those numbers too. And this is the thing that they I hope they learn eventually is they got to have some shit for me to go to climb onto after this is over, even if it's only another 9 months till we do this again. A lot of people are just going to get off of their subscriptions. That's what happened after season 8 was over. They lost 52% of their male demographic. So I was hoping that they would have something so that just like Star Trek for the most part. Star Trek has put enough series out there to where there's very few gaps and there's very little time in the gaps. So hopefully they get that. But House of the Dragon could use a lot more nudity and sex. Part of the appeal of like the death. It is. You know what? Not to be a pervert, it is part of the show. It is part of the accepted realities of the show. And given the environment that they're in, it's always considered part of. And they never do it like Friday the 13th stuff. It's always part of the story and explicit parts of the story. It's well placed. This show is gonna go crazy moving forward. Do you think they will actually show blood? Yes, they will. They cannot go forward without it. And the reason why, as the viewer, you have to see the depravity that both sides. This isn't a one-sided issue. I've always made fun of you have the dumb side and the smart side, but it takes both of them to levy the destruction, that the long-lasting destruction that is the Dance of the Dragon. And when you see Blood of Cheese, it puts the viewer in a conflict of who the fuck do I root for now? Because Blood and Cheese, and I'm not going to go into the details for some of the people who haven't read the books and want to wait. It is horrific. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. I don't care what it is in retaliation to. It is inexcusable, and it hurts people that have nothing to do with the battle. That had no ill will towards you. It hurts those people and sends their lives into a spiral. Because you were trying to go after and get retaliation because of what someone else who is part of the battle did. You went outside the arena and harmed people that were not part of this. They were part of it by blood, but they had no choice in the matter. They were born into the situation, and that's where you start to see particular individuals become evil. And you at the end of the day, at the end of the series, you're to look back on it and see that they both ruined each other. They both ruined the House Targaryen, and they were both messed up. So yeah, Blood and Cheese is a major, major part of that. I don't see how they could forward the story without showing that. And be honest with you, showing it as graphically as it's depicted, because it has to be shocking in order for us to put ourselves in the position of both of these sides. All these people deserve to die. All right, is Jon Snow filming soon? I hope so. No, I think it's I don't know how much more development Snow is. I have my theories about how Snow is going to interact with what we're seeing. I personally, and I have no inside whatever on this, think that we haven't seen the last of the threat from the north. I do not, even though the Night King is gone, I do not think he was the threat from the north. I think there's something more horrific. I think there's something different. I think there's something worse. And I think that what we're seeing now ties to that threat. We thought that it was the Night King and his people, but that was only, in my opinion, I think that was only the beginning, and that part of the reason that we're even doing a House of the Dragon and we are bringing to the surface the Song of Ice and Fire is to connect the prophecy to the real threat that Jon Snow will face because he's beyond the wall. He's there. And remember, the prophecy says that it's going to take a Targaryen to unite and rule this. He's the last Targaryen that is there. So the prophecy still holds true. But I do think that I suspect, it's like based on nothing, that the threat from the north has yet to be dealt with. A threat from the north has been. The threat has not been. That's just my suspicion. All right, so yeah, my HBO Max resub just a couple of days before the final, so I got to find some other. Hey, HBO Max has a lot of cool stuff, man. A lot of superhero stuff on it. It's the best service.
There's a lot of stuff out there for HBO Max. There's a lot of old horror movies. There's a lot of like recent horror movies. There's a lot of, I mean, all the DC animated stuff is there, and that's probably some of the best DC stuff I've ever watched. There's a lot to offer. There's some shows you could even get into.
Yeah, I mean,
it really is a good value for what you pay for it.
Yeah, Westworld is on there. Watchmen is on there. There's a lot of great stuff on HBO Max. Bat City stuff. All my friends are watching Game of Thrones and Euphoria, and I want to talk to them about it, and that way I can be in the loop, but I can't get past all the sexual news. Oh, Euphoria is really bad. Euphoria has a lot, and it's graphic. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for you to get into Game of Thrones, especially a lot easier for you to get into House of the Dragon because there's not as much. There's just not as much. But the original Game of Thrones, with the exception of maybe the last season, there's not a lot. But in season 8, but in seasons 1 through 7, there's plenty, and they became known for it. So yeah, you might have to steer clear of some of this. Euphoria is interlaced with nudity. I mean, and drug use and everything else. So. All right, I think we're going to be wrapping it up here. I hope the Astros finish them off. No way Yankees win 4 in a row. I hope the Phillies beat the Astros. I actually think the Phillies will beat the Astros. If you take away the World Series that they were found guilty of cheating in, and that was 2017, the 2 subsequent World Series that they have gone to, which is 2019 one, and then the 2021 one, they lost to teams that were well below the 100 mark. They lost to a 93 win Braves team. I think they lost to a Nationals team that didn't win that many games too. So the fact that they have all these advantages going into the World Series, I still think the Phillies beat them. I think the Phillies are better managed. I think the Phillies have better firepower, and they're on a roll. So I think it's going to be the Phillies, and I'm rooting for Bryce Harper because he got a lot of heat when he left Washington because he took the money, which nobody would turn down, $500 million or wherever he got. And now he gets to have the money and the ring if he makes it through. So, all right, guys. Let's see. Euphoria storytelling sucks, but yeah, and a lot of and some man junk in there too. So that'd keep me away. Black Adam turned out better than I thought. Henry Cavill got some lines. That's enough for me. Yeah. HBO and Discovery are having a new streaming service next year. So what's going to happen to my HBO Max? I don't know. I think it's just going to get consolidated. All right, Astros are tainted for life. Yeah, they could have won 5 World Series after that, and it was still 2017 should have been stripped of them. All right, guys, we've gone on 1 hour and 5 minutes, which is our usual time. So I hope you enjoyed the last 10 weeks. We will get together, we will put our heads together, and we will come up with several things for us to talk about. Might be a later time because, like I said, my schedule is going to shift back now that Game of Thrones is over. But we will talk. Trust me, I have plenty to talk about. We all have plenty to talk about. So just because this is the last season of House of the Dragon doesn't mean this is the last of our nightly encounters. So just keep an eye out. Keep an eye out on both Enosh's channel. Keep an eye out on my own channel, and we will see you for the next adventure. All right. Thanks, guys.
You guys be safe and stay blessed.